Cigarettes and absinthe absorb the morning atmosphere, clinging to the air like a downtown John hangs on to his last shred of dignity with the barest of fingertips. Before I even step into the bedroom, my stomach tightens with the overpowering presence of sex and death. I just hope for her sake it was in that order. If I was still green around the gills, and perhaps a saying such as this might have weighed heavier than it does. But after 5 years in the service, it becomes business as usual. Still, a shame. A crying shame that such a beautiful dame had to go this way. Sleep tight, angel. I hope your return journey isn't as rough as your departure. I scour the room to look beneath the obvious signs of a struggle. I've got a pretty solid cause of death on my hands, but no real leads to go on. The obvious call is to investigate the husband, but I'm not the kind of guy who buys too much into obvious. Hell, I'm not the kind of guy who buys into a lot of what goes on in this line of work. A lot of people ain't too happy about the way I go about my business, but the hell with them. They want the easy ride. They can take it. But me, I play every angle possible and then come back for seconds. They call me a workhorse, a night owl. Once I have a case in between my teeth, I'm like a hungry dog with a piece of prime steak. Jack Monroe, or as my former colleagues down at the NYPD used to call me, Moonlight Monroe, attributed by the fact I never took my work home, because I never went home. Some people, or perhaps most, saw this as some kind of brown-nosing tactic to climb the ladder, but I'm no schmoozer. I'm just an honest Joe putting his nose to the grindstone, getting his hands dirty. Even now, after migrating to the lonely world of private detection, my work ethic remains intact. I'm thorough to a fault. Don't believe me? Ask my wife. If you can find where she moved to, that is. I inspect the clues already flagged by the homicide team, half of which don't mind a gumshoe sticking his nose in on their scene. The other half, I don't care for at all. Her name was Ella Rodan. Her husband Danny had me tail her for the last few nights. The two prior to this, she stayed at home. I'm guessing she should have stuck to the routine. I followed her here after 10 o'clock last night. She'd been drinking at a local hooch joint and had worked herself up into a real emotional mess before collapsing into the arms of a tall stranger, masked by the night's dark blanket. Without having anything to return to back home, I figured I'd wait it out. Next thing I know, the sound of sirens has awoken me from a deep sleep. As I peel myself up from the steering wheel, I see some of my former colleagues enter the building. Of course, because I no longer occupy a badge, I have to sit patiently until they've cleaned up the area. Even then, it took a little bit of convincing to get my tuchus into the apartment, where Miss Rodan lay still with a neck the shade of freshly grown beets. Amongst the debris of what clearly was quite a physical encounter, I find Ella's handbag, untouched and unmarked. Whoever did this was not after money or her personal belongings. This was personal. But then again, when isn't it? I flipped open the gold buckle on the black leather bag, running my hands across the top of it. I peeled it open and I searched inside with the hope of finding something that could set up my next move. Amongst the usual properties, I found a worn matchbook. I pulled it out for closer inspection. Both sides bore the logo of what could be a regal stamp of some sort. Underneath the image read the Red Lion Club. I knew of it, had heard plenty of stories, most of them pretty ugly. I'd never been, but I guess now was as good as any time to stop by. But first, I had to break some bad news to Mr. Rodan. I headed back downstairs and asked the desk clerk if I could use the telephone. Silently he nodded, unlocked the phone onto the desk for me. I pulled out the number for Rodan's house and I began to dial. I let it ring for a minute, but no answer. Either he had already heard and wasn't up for idle chit-chat, or perhaps he had a guilty conscience, the kind that didn't want to be contacted. Not one to take no for an answer, I was on my way over there. And when I arrived, he best have the answers I'm looking for.